Now I'm sitting beside author Stephanie Landsem. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Good. Nice to be here.
Thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it. And I asked everybody to, their first question is to tell us a little bit about yourself.
I would do that. My name is Stephanie Landsem. I write historical fiction. I've got a book out right now with Tyndale Publishing called In a Far Off Land, and it's set in 1930s Hollywood. Before that, I've done some biblical fiction. I have a series of biblical fiction of unknown women, or stories that aren't really known, of women in the Bible in the New Testament, women who have encountered Jesus and been changed by that encounter. So that's what I'm working on right now and enjoying my writing time. And I'm actually in the middle of a new book, which, forgive me if I'm a little flustered because I've been working on a deadline and my brain is a little bit mushy.
I can relate to that for sure. And I just wanted to back up a little bit. You kind of have a Detroit Lakes connection. So.
I do. My husband's from Detroit Lakes. His parents lived there for many years. He graduated from high school there. So we spent lots of nice summers up on the lake in Detroit Lakes. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm actually currently reading In a Far Off Land, or I'm listening to the audiobook. So, and I am wondering, because I don't know much about 1930s Hollywood, how much research did you do for that? And are the actors that you mentioned in there, are they real people?
It was very fun research, very different than biblical research. So that was kind of a shock. You have a lot of sources, a lot of interviews and videos, and films. Newspapers, so tons of research is what I did. Probably too much, because I just never know when to stop. And yeah, most of the people mentioned in there that aren't the main characters are historical Hollywood figures, and that was really fun. I love Charlie Chaplin. We've got some actors and actresses in there that make little cameo appearances. William Randolph Hearst, and lots of the big hitters that were kind of running Hollywood at the time. So,
And so you have some kind of maybe detail about those actors. Are those accurate details in there?
They are, very much so. Just their personalities. It's easy to find out a lot about people in that now, especially most of them, all of them are dead. So you can find a lot of biographies and interviews about them. And I tried to be as accurate as possible.
Yeah. I find it kind of interesting, and I think, Hollywood hasn't changed all that much. There's a lot of drugs and...
Absolutely. It actually might be tamer now than it was in the 30s. It was a very wild time. There was no holds barred there. They didn't even have rating systems on the movies, so they could really do anything. And there was a lot of corruption going on in the theaters and in newspapers and all sorts of stuff there. So it was a pretty dark time in our history in California.
Yeah, I know. I'm rooting for Mina, the character, because she's not making some real good decisions. Do I have hope for her? Or?
Well, it's the story of the prodigal son. So that's what I wanted to do. I've always loved that parable, and when I did my biblical fiction, I was drawn to that parable of the prodigal, or the merciful father, is what we will sometimes call it. I thought, it'd be so neat to take that parable and set it in a different time period. Then I went out to Hollywood, learned about all of the stuff that was going on in the 30s, and thought, that's where our prodigal needs to go. So she makes some really bad decisions, and for reasons that we can understand. So it kind of makes you feel for her a little bit, but she's still, doing some bad stuff. But she's the prodigal, so the story that Jesus was trying to tell us is it doesn't matter how bad things have gotten, you can always go back home to the Father, and He will always forgive you. So it's yes, keep rooting for her, because that's the end of the story, and there's no spoilers there. That's what God wants, is for us to come back to Him. So it's going to be okay.
Yes. No, I'm really enjoying listening to the book, and there's some hard moments in there, but I think we can all relate to having some hard moments in our life.
Right. Or knowing someone that we love who's doing that. And that's very much what the father in the book is watching his daughter make these bad decisions. And some of us as parents or brothers or sisters, you know, we see that, and it's like, please, like, don't do this, but we can't control them. We can always hope that they can come back.
Yes.
So
excellent. Yeah. And I saw on your website that you like to read, so I always like to ask authors, well, what do you read? I mean, and how do you have time?
I don't have a lot of time right now, and I can't even remember the last book I read. But I have been trying to read some. It's interesting because that period of the 1930s American history hasn't been a very popular period for fiction. But now suddenly stuff is coming out. And maybe it's just because I have a book out, and so I'm noticing it. But Kristen Hanna just did a Depression era book, The Four Winds. We have another Tyndall author, If It Rains, is coming out. So I'm really looking at that era these days and reading it. It's a fascinating era in our history that I think people don't remember. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was the Depression, but there was a lot of things going on. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been reading lately.
Okay, super. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and you know, share your gifts and your books, and yeah, thank you.
It's good talking to you, and hello Detroit Lakes. Someday we'll come back and visit.
Yes, you should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.